Today on my channel, I'll be doing the Smile Man. I know I have done the Smile Man in the past, but that one's kind of been corrupted, so I am re-uploading this one for the Smile Man. So let's get on with the story. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I'd always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite. But all that changed in just a few minutes on one evening. It was Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police patrolled park, quite away from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and no one on foot. The park, as like most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street on my side was a silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to the waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward shrug. So I guess you can say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give a majority of the sidewalk to pass me by. The closer he got, the more I realized how graceful he was moving. He was very tall and lengthy, and was wearing an old suit. He danced closer still until I could make out his face. His eyes were wide open and wild, his head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back and then stopped dead in my tracks. He was stopped dancing, and he was standing with one foot in the street, parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skywards, smile wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but kept my eye on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about a half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he was standing to find him gone. For the briefest moment, I felt relieved until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and was slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to the distance and the shadow, but I was certain he was facing me. I had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he moved fast. I was shocked, and I stood there for some time, staring at him, and then he started moving towards me again. He took giant and gesturing tiptoe steps, as if he was a cartoon character sneaking up on someone, except he was moving very, very quickly. I like to say at this point I pulled out my pepper spray or my cell phone or anything at all, but I didn't. I just stood there completely frozen as the smiling man crept towards me. And then he stopped again, and about half a car length away from me, still smiling his smile, still looking skyward. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind, that I meant to ask, "What the fuck do you want?" in an angry, commanding tone, but what came out was a whimper. Regardless of whatever or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it, and I heard it in my own voice. And the only made me more afraid. But he didn't react at all. He just stood there, smiling. And then after what felt like forever, he turned around very slowly and started walking away. Just like that, not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go until he was far enough away and almost out of sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off the side road and back onto a well-lit sidewalk, with barring traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for about 6 months after that night, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk. He didn't look high. He looked completely, utterly insane. And that's a very scary thing to see.